Hello, this is Tom, aka G.A.S.L.I.G.H.T here for Tabletop Taproom. Welcome back to the Taproom. We're going to be talking about best and worst RPGs today. I got a IM from Vince the Evil DM. Let me do a quick share screen here. So he was doing a what's your top 4 RPGs? My top 4, what's yours? Uploaded, and he kind of challenged me to do a similar video. But I got thinking about it. And I'm like, why did he only do 4? Why not 5? Why not top 10? Then I got thinking about this. Boy, yeah, I think I understand why he did top 4. My top 4 RPGs. But I also got thinking about it. I says, I'm going to just put a spin on it and not really do what he did. Well, I'm going to do what he did, but it will be the best and the worst of a particular RPG, as I see it. Now, right off the bat, let me just say, I am not interested in edition wars. Like if you like a particular edition over another one, then by all means, play that. In the words of my Sicilian business partner, he used to say concerning that whole red wine with red meat, white, drink what the hell you like. And I found that piece of wisdom from Ed applies to so much in life. So it's, role play what the hell you like. If you like 5e versus something else, whatever, play what the hell you like. And so I'm going to discuss editions, and I'm going to talk about editions I don't like. I'm not going to say that this edition is better than that edition. But we're going to start with my first RPG ever, which happens to have been Dungeons and Dragons. I got this for Christmas as a box set, and it inflamed my imagination. It lit me on fire, and I was hooked for RPGs. And so we immediately introduced, lived in a base, and they had the base housing. The buildings faced each other, and so they called that an alleyway. So I immediately introduced it to 2 other guys in the alleyway. We started playing D&D all the time. Sometimes recruit in a 4th person, but not too often. It was usually the 3 of us. And so we started playing this, got the expert box set, and then I think Darren was the first one to get an AD&D manual. And then I was totally envious. So I was out mowing lawns, saving up money so that I could also get Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books, because and eventually we just kind of morphed. We were doing we were using some AD&D stuff in BX, and eventually we're just playing AD&D. So these were my introduction, and I loved them. And then life happens. You go off to college, you start pursuing career, you start doing that kind of thing, and I fell away from RPGs. And I came back. When I came back, I was in my late 30s, got a couple of kids kind of thing, pushing 40, get a little nostalgic. So I was like, hey, I'd like to sit in on a D&D game. And I found a group, and what I discovered is that I had missed 2nd edition and I missed 3.0. And so I ended up at coming back at 3.5. And initially, it's all new, trying to figure it out. And I'm like, I'll just play a fighter that's simple. I don't have to worry about the magic. And but I found I hated this edition. Absolutely hated this edition. It was slow. It was so slow. I could not stand how we would get together and we would have one combat, and it would take all night. 3 hours at a kitchen table. I mean, I can eat Doritos much faster than this. I mean, and we did eat a lot of Doritos. But so I hated this. So we were playing it, and I was like, grousing. Hey, can we? There's things we can do to speed this up. This is so stupidly slow. I can't stand it. The game progresses slow, and then lo and behold, 4th edition came out. So I was like, oh man, well, yeah, this has got to be good. So I immediately invested in all the books. I have a stack of books, like yay high. And in fact, even though I will probably never play fourth edition again. Well, yeah, I never say never. I recently bought Open Grave about Vankna, the book on the source book on Vankna, just for the reference work of it. So plus, the artwork's cool, the color artwork's all throughout. So I do like those books. I haven't sold them off on eBay, but it turned out to I invested so much money, tried to get the group to convert over to it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like I thought I was going to like it because of the whole, I like war games, I like tactical situations, and they're trying to make it like World of Warcraft and a video game. So I thought it was really going to appeal to me on the tactical side, where I really like war games and that kind of thing. I did not like it, and my group kind of just said no. And so the choice was play 3.5, which was like watching paint dry. So I burned out, and I actually dropped out of the group, and they were a little bit pissed with me over that. There was some hurt feelings. I was like, I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm done. I can't do this, because it's like watching paint dry, and I'm not having fun. And why am I doing this if I'm so miserable? So I dropped out because it was miserable. And when I dropped out, I went back to basic expert D&D. Where, it's fun, it's easy, it's quick, you can pick it up and let's just go. And its combats are fast, they're and sometimes they're deadly, especially for magic user with only 2 hit points to start. So I went back to it and I was like, this is great. I already own this book. It's fast, it's simple. I don't have to flip through the book to find some stupid rule. I was always frustrated with one of the 3.5 players that every session he was going to cast Fireball. And that meant he had to flip through the book and find it. He couldn't bookmark it and just go right there. He had to flip through the book and find it and then reread it. And then we had all right, I'm going to center the Fireball here. I'm like, it's just so slow and tedious. It was like watching paint dry, and he never took the hint where I was like, photocopy the spell, cut it out and tape it to an index card and do that for all of your spells, hole punch the corner, put them on a little steel ring, and keep your spell book at the table, easy to reference. And, we don't have to do this. It was such a waste of time. He never got it. He never got the hint. And so again, I just hated that edition. And not long after, was this whole D&D, the company's working with all the players and the next evolution of D&D, which became 5e. But I was burnt. I was absolutely burnt out. And I was like, I've spent too much money on some 3.5 products, and then too much money on 4e. I am not interested. 5e came out, it was, it's great. I says, is it faster play than 3.5? And people are like, slightly. And I was like, yeah, not interested. I have BX. So my favorite is BX. I don't mind AD&D, and I've recently bought Old School Essentials, been going through that, and Swords and Wizards, looking at that. And, I know these are just modern presentations of some of these classic games. So I haven't had a chance to really play those, but this is where my spiritual heart is at, is AD&D and BX. But if I don't have to game master, I would probably sit in on a game if somebody else was running it. But probably not 3.5. So burnt on 3.5 and kind of burnt on 4e. So and I've never fully transitioned into 5e. My stepson plays 5e. The good wife's excited. She said, aren't you excited your stepson plays Dungeons & Dragons? I don't know. Yeah. And he loves 5e. And I've bought 5e products and I've tried to read them. And I kind of just, and I got one of my buddies from that 3.5 group. He had a medical issue, so we had to cancel him coming up to here to Maine. We're going to sit on the back porch, barbecue, and play D&D, out here under the shade of the canopy. And he's in the 5e and he loves it. And I listen to him, and so I've bought some 5e product and I've tried to read it, and I don't have the excitement about it. It's like, I have BX and I love it, and I can play AD&D if somebody really wanted to go there, and I have the materials. I don't have the excitement for 5e, but I could probably sit in on a 5e game. Somebody else was game mastering, but with all of the videos I've watched from different people on YouTube, especially Professor Dungeon Master over at Dungeon Craft, I think I would have to go 5e hardcore mode. No death saves and half the hit points, and it's just brutal. Just you could die. There is real jeopardy in the game, and you could die. So for me, the best is BX. The worst is 3.5 that I dislike the most, and that's where I stand on Dungeons and Dragons. Cut. Yes, baby.
I was just gonna say. Also, keep in mind for him, he doesn't have anything to compare to.
Right.
That's it. So if you go back and rewind, and that's your first experience in this world,
yes,
you're like on fire. It's like what you explained, like, hey, the Alley kids and I, this is what we did, because that was your first exposure to it. His first exposure to it is this, and he's all in.
Yeah.
I mean, they bought the leather bound thing. They've hand drawn out.
Yep.
I mean, they are deep into the details.
Yes, and I love that for him.
He doesn't know any.
And he doesn't know any other.
He doesn't know any better.
Wait till he discovers hardcore mode. Somebody's like, "Hey, let's try hardcore mode. Let's try."
He'll be like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, he might like it. He might enjoy that. Oh, geez, this is a much more dangerous game, because from what rumor has it, people can't die in D&D 5e. You don't die. You're superheroes.
They almost died so many times.
Well, but those death saves, you don't really die. You come back. It's too. You have to work at dying.
Entry level. For him, it's like that's all he knows.
And I still haven't checked off my, have a total party kill. I haven't. That's on my bucket list, and I still haven't checked that off. So I don't want to play 5e because I know that's not going to happen. Yes. So I guess I'm not cutting this part out.
The good wife.
We'll let the good wife chime in. Yeah, no. And this is why I'm just not interested in Edition Wars. Look, my stepson loves 5e. He's into it hardcore. Buying, metal dice, expensive. I don't want to say overpriced, but I get it. They're perfectly milled and perfectly balanced. The edges will never chip. Not like those first dice we got in the D&D box sets that just chipped and rounded, and the D20 became like like a ball. You just rolled it and hoped it stopped on one side. Yeah. So he's into it, and that's why I'm just not interested in Edition Wars. I know my baby brother. He's not really a baby anymore. Loves second edition. That's his game. He loves second edition. I introduced him to BX. We played, BX, when he was just, hey, he was kind of interested in it. I says, all right, we'll play this one. It's easy to run. I didn't pull out AD&D. I pulled out BX, and we ran some BX games. And so when he started buying his own books and getting into it with his friends, I believe it was second edition that he got into. So that's his touchstone, and again, so I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, second edition AD&D sucks. No, my brother loves it, and he has fun with it. Him and his friends have had fun with it for decades. So, I'm like, this, again, on the Edition Wars, play what the hell you like. Okay. You like it, play it. The point is to have fun. So that's D&D. Let's move on. So here we have my second RPG that I ever got was Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn. And, this debuted in 1982 as the blue box was just Star Frontiers. And then quickly when they published the Star Frontiers Nighthawks, the spaceship supplement. They repackaged the original as Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn. And so Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn for adventuring, Star Frontiers Nighthawks for spaceships. And so this was my favorite. It's been my favorite. My claim to fame, I've published 200 articles about Star Frontiers in 3 different fan magazines. And I've been working in the fan magazines and in the fan community for quite a long time now, going back to, about 15, almost 20 years, part of the fan community and producing new content for this game. So I love this game. My absolute favorite RPG. It's fast play. When you're playing it at the table, by and large, if you've got your character sheet in front of you and the DM's got a DM screen with whatever tables are on it, you don't need to look up rules in a book. There's no going to the book. It's just, let's just move. Fast play. Stuff happens and you move. I ran a 30-minute session where we had 2 combats, a role play. We had a little bit of role play with an NPC, and we had a skill challenge where the players were trying to overcome a situation by just using their skills. And I thought, oh my God, now I'm about to, so I had this 30-minute session of Star Frontiers, and now I'm going to play 3 hours of D&D 3.5 and watch paint dry, because we're only going to do 1 combat. And then, we're going to be like, all right, good game. See you next week. Once I had that experience, I was like, this is the best RPG ever, because we could tell stories, we have fun, we just move right on, things happen. And that appealed to me. So absolutely my favorite RPG of all time. But then they came out with Zebulon's Space. This is a half-baked 2nd edition of Star Frontiers. It's an incomplete. You can't play Zebulon's Guide to Frontier Space. You cannot play it on its own. You have to go back and use the 1st edition, Alpha Dawn, to be able to play this game. It's incomplete. And so for me, this was the worst of the Star Frontiers allotment. And I know there are people out there that like it, but again, if you like the skill system in this, and I've actually recently had somebody tell me, oh man, I really like the column shift, mechanic, because of the graininess and, how well you roll determines how much damage. Look, it's not me. Don't like it. I don't use it. So I play, play What the Hell You Like. Awesome wisdom from my Sicilian business partner from back in the early 2000s. It's the best wisdom I've ever gotten. I feel like, other than stuff from my dad, but Ed's, so for me, it is Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn, not Zebulon's Guide. My next RPG is Gaslight. I love this particular RPG. Now, the reason why I love this RPG is because it's not just an RPG, it is war game. It's so you can play it as RPG, where you're controlling 1 figure on the table. You can play it as skirmish war game, where your hero's on the table controlling a few squads of soldiers, maybe. Or you could play it as mass battles, and you can port your character through all different levels of it. And so I found that absolutely fascinating. Plus, I'm a little bit of a fan of the American Civil War. So it has a American Civil War by Gaslight supplement, which I thought was cool. And now I love this game. It's simple. It's dinosaurs, cultists, velociraptors, just, mummies, the Nautilus, Captain Nemo and the Nautilus. I mean, it's just the crazy Victorian sci-fi. Just have fun, beer and pretzels kind of game. And it's a very thin little book. You know, these little books, they're just thin little books, and they came out with all these little white books, and I bought them up, but then I'd misplace them, and I'd be like, where's that damn book? Well, I was at Historicon, and I spotted this at Historicon. Actually, we just put it up on the screen. You know, it's a nice hardbound, and it was everything. It's the compendium. It was all the books together, because like I bought all the books, except I don't think I bought the pulp one. There's a pulp one, which is like 1920s kind of adventures, cultists, you know, Nazis if you want them, type of thing. Green Hornet, Indiana Jones, that kind of 1920s, 1930s pulp adventures supplement. And so this is all of those little white books in one. And I started reading it, and I was like, it was confusing. And just the presentation just lost me. And I was like, you know, because they tried to put it all together as one thing. And so I just found it confusing, because with these little white books, like I've already misplaced the, where's the RPG one? You know, you can just grab the one for the level of action you're looking to run. And I liked that. So, you know, if I'm going to do the RPG, I'm just doing the RPG. I don't have to fuss with all the other rules. So for me, I loved this edition of Gaslight in the little white books. I did not like the compendium. Now, if you go online and you start Googling Gaslight, you're going to find another rule set, another Victorian sci-fi rule set called Gaslight. I don't know anything about it. About that game. This is Gaslight with all these little periods in it, because this is an acronym, and it stands for Glorious Adventures in Science, loosely involving generally historic times, which is kind of cute, you know, because Gaslight was a thing in the Victorian sci-fi era. So, you know, they took the word and they turned it into and I thought that was cute. And this is a different game than that other one. And I don't even know if this is still in publication. You know, this is produced by a guy named Palmer and Buck Surdu, Christopher Palmer and John R. Buck Surdu. And on this particular, on the mass battles, there's a Robert Beatty who is also credited. So this Buck Surdu was marketing these, and my local gaming store was carrying them. And, you know, that's how I just by chance bought them up and thought, oh, this is cool. So, you know, and the cool thing is you can use any figures out there. Like if you've got Warhammer Fantasy Battle skinks, the little lizardmen skinks, you can use them in this as just lizardmen found somewhere in the depths of darkest Africa, you know, or the Amazon, you know, on some temple, you know, some pyramid temple. You know, you use anything. And you know, I have some colonial Italian soldiers, you know, colonial naval infantry and basiglieri. And so I made a few Victorian sci-fi elements to add to them, and so I can just use them in this. So I mean, if I'm running a game, there's a chance I might have some colonial Italian opposition for you, you know, going on. You can use any figures from that whole era. So there's all these historic figures out there that you could use. And one of the cool things that's on the cover of this book, let me throw it up on screen, is look here at the bottom of this page. Now, I've already trashed this Gaslight compendium, but look at this. You've got Cossacks on mounted on velociraptors charging British Lancers on ostriches. It's just cool. That's just cool and fun. And I've always been like, I got to find a nice ostrich miniature that I can then go buy some cheap British Lancers and mount them on there. I'm like, these guys just are cool. And I'm like, I want some. So I think the Velociraptor mounts would be easier to find. But definitely, you know, this is just a fun beer and pretzels kind of game. So I love the Gaslight in the little white books. Hate the compendium. I don't like how it's laid out. It just found it confusing. And I'm like, just give me the damn little white books and I'm happy. And so that's my top 3 favorite and worst RPGs. But I think I'll do a bonus. And I don't have a picture of it to throw up on the screen, but it was first edition Witch Hunter. My wargaming club was like, hey, let's try this out. Somebody bought the book. And so we're all sitting there, over at somebody's house going, all right, so who's going to run the game? And everybody's looking at everybody. I'm like, all right, I guess I will, be the good doobie. I'll game master it. So I take the book home and I'm reading it. And the setting is fun. The setting is really interesting. And, and I found a 1700s, early 1700s map of Boston. And, we were living in, I lived in East Boston and one of the other players lived in East Boston. Everybody else was in a suburb. So I found this 1700s map of Boston and got it printed as a poster, huge. And I thought, we're totally going to use this, and, it was cool because the back bay hadn't been filled in. So Boston comes down to this narrow neck. There's a little fortification there. And, you didn't know that, if you didn't know much about the history of Boston, it was just cool to use this map because it, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Oh. We were committed to playing this. And it was a dice pool system, which I'm okay with. Different mechanic, you adjust to it because players like rolling dice, and there's just something, there's an excitement to the sound of dumping a bunch of dice in the dice tray. So it wasn't a dice pool system. I didn't have a problem with that, but trying to set up adventures, there was no monster manual. There was no, chapter in the rule book of a sample list of creatures. I had to create all of that stuff from scratch every adventure, and it was just tough, and then you're adding, all right, now we got to add some powers to it, spell-like and all of that, it just became super tedious to the point that I absolutely dreaded running a game of Witch Hunter first edition. Now I know there's a second edition came out at some point. It could even be in third edition now, and maybe these problems have been fixed. But I also heard from somebody who had run into the developers of Witch Hunter at a convention and had been asking them questions, and they had said, look, the rules don't matter. The rules could suck. The rules just don't matter. It's the setting. People will play it because of the setting. And I gotta say, the setting for Witch Hunter is wicked cool. It was fascinating. It was very Solomon Kane, and I'd been reading Solomon Kane at the time, and it super appealed to me. But the rules suck so bad, it took the joy out of it for me. Is with Witch Hunter. So I would say my worst, absolute worst RPG I ever tried to play, and everybody was having fun. All the players are having fun, but the game master was just dreading the tedium of it. I just absolutely took the joy out. And I'm like, look, somebody else take the books. You can run it. For having fun, that's fine. It's killing me. I just hate it so much. And I just found the book tough to use, particularly creating creatures, spell-like powers and effects. I didn't think it had the greatest magic system either. It was my opinion, but and I was actually looking for the book. Apparently I got rid of it. I can't find the book in the house. But yeah, so that would be hands down my worst Witch Hunter first edition. I don't know anything about the other editions and had no interest in buying them because I hated the first edition so bad. I hated that experience. So this is Tom from Tabletop Taproom. Thanks if you've watched this far. This is my take on Vince's, best favorite RPGs, giving you my fave and worst about the same RPG, which is usually me, dumping on one of the editions. Not to start an edition war, because again, we come back to play what the hell you like. Ed was a smart man, and that wisdom applies across so many things in life. So thanks for watching. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great, and keep on gaming.